Welcome to the Property Regeneration Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss innovative products and services that meet either local, social, technological, environmental, political, and legal needs within the construction industry or property market. Introducing your host, a property developer and investor, Rachel Gross.
Hi, I'm Rachel Goss. Welcome back to part 2 of the discussion on e-waste and user. If you missed part 1 of the discussion, you can find this on our previous episode.
Now, building the database, that's where the cost is. But actually, once you have that database established, then the inference engine is pennies to run. So the cost of the knowledge required to set up these systems is much more accessible than what it used to be as well. So you've got, and also there's an acceptability of using this type of technology. So what you've suddenly now got in terms of trying to be more sustainable in managing woodlands is we now have a big drop in the price of the cost of the technology. We've seen an improvement in the accessibility to the skills. But also we're seeing a much more acceptance of people using these smart tools to actually do things on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. Coming from an architectural background, my mind's whizzing now to, could these drones be so advanced to a point where it can take high definition photos of buildings to assess, okay, this building's not as sustainable. This building as just a general analysis for perhaps a developer who wants to know how much impact they can make to a building to make it more sustainable. So
I mean, there are companies, and this is not a commercial plug whatsoever, so please don't think it is, but there's companies such as Fluke, for example, and they will provide you with, and I'm sure these products are used, these types of products are already in use by building surveyors, but they will provide you with, for example, the amount of heat which is escaping from the building, so it will give you an image of whether the building is hot or cold in terms of how it's presenting itself to the outside environment. And there are many other sensors which you can buy which enable you to monitor an environment. So, whether gases are escaping, whether liquids are escaping or what have you. And because of these technologies are becoming much more compact, then with certainly with commercial drones, then they can actually then be carried by the commercial drones and then taken to situations for you to then determine whether in fact that is meeting a set of standards or it could meet a set of standards. So there are, I think with technology, there are many new avenues. I mean, intelligent building management is not new in itself.
That's right.
But I always think there's a sort of a tussle here because the challenge with being sustainable, of course, is yes, you can introduce technology to the management and the maintenance of an environment, but there is a cost associated with the design and the development and the manufacturing and the deployment of that technology. And then there's an end-of-life cost associated with that technology as well. And that was one of the things we recognised with the Internet of Trees, is that yes, you can put sensor technology into woodlands, into parklands, even into your garden, but actually there's a cost associated with that. And at what point are you actually doing more overall harm to our environment? And
it's just trying to find that
trying
balance.
to weigh it up between scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3 impacts.
So on a smaller scale, let's say the ordinary house owner wanting to make some changes to the garden, how would you recommend they go about acquiring this technology? Not so much an expensive side, but on an affordable side. Are there companies out there that will enable them to do that?
I think it depends what they want to achieve in their garden, doesn't it?
Let's say you've got an enthusiast who enjoys gardening and is looking to grow their own fruit and veg.
I mean, there's the National Allotment Society, the Royal Horticultural Society. There are many national bodies which provide a huge amount of information to steer you towards a particular ideal which you have as to how you want your personal space to be. So, for example, I've got a 10-pole allotment, and 2/3 of that is now given over to pear trees and apple trees and blueberry bushes and whitecurrant bushes and gooseberry bushes and what have you. And I deliberately allow the grass to grow long because I know it's a good refuge for bees and and other pollinating insects and what have you. So these are simple things which we can do, but it's having the courage to leave things aside. Yes, it looks untidy, but Mother Nature
knows best.
Enjoys sometimes an untidy space because that's where they will actually nest and they can forage and what have you. And also, I think from a gardening perspective, again, the horticultural societies and the allotment societies have got a huge array of plants which you can plant into your garden, into your small spaces, and even into your window boxes, which again will encourage all manner of insects and provide you with all sorts of different produce. So the scope is just huge, and there's things which you can do which don't involve technology. You just got to tune yourself more into Mother Nature. It's going to be interesting to see as we go forward with sustainable buildings how we. In fact, there was a small article, myself and a gentleman by the name of Charlie Guy. He's the CEO of a company called Let Us Grow, and they are heavily involved in the hydroponics industry. So this is actually growing vegetables without soil, so it's mist and nutrients and various other things. And we were conceiving the idea of whether you could actually have vertical allotments. So as we move more and more towards these smarter cities, people will want a green space. And I know that there are some companies that are looking at how you could actually grow trees off a vertical face. So part of the trunk goes horizontal, then it goes up.
And I've seen ones where they actually become almost like the facade of the building.
It's very clever. So that's all very exciting because it just demonstrates that we can actually go from one way of thinking to another way of thinking and create green spaces, but the spaces are actually vertical rather horizontal, which people can enjoy. Yeah. And again, it will bring Mother Nature into their environment, which is good for the individual and it's good for the community.
I'm also into the city because you want to see less of concrete steel structures and more something more familiar with Mother Nature. That's very great. Okay, I know we probably skipped over a bit in perhaps you educating our listeners a little bit more about the institute that you're under. It would be great to find out a little bit more what you do as an institute and your role as a member.
So
delivering a service to the wider community.
So the British Computer Society is the professional body for IT. By Royal Charter, and within the British Computer Society you have a number of specialist groups, and the specialist group which myself and Alex and others are a part of is called the Green IT Group. So what we're looking at is we're looking at the actual sustainability of information technology as it's used on a day-to-day basis and as we go forward. Now, there was a view which was put forward by Gartner several years ago that the actual carbon footprint of the IT industry was equivalent to that of the aviation industry, which was about 2% globally. the work which we've done, which was actually supplied to DEC, which was at the time with the coalition government, the Department for the Environment and Climate Change, and also to DEFRA, which is the department still responsible for the environment, agriculture and environment, was we estimated that it was actually about 17%. So it was a significant. IT has a significant impact on our carbon footprint than was actually first thought. There are many reasons for that. When you look at IT today, there's an awful lot of IT which we use directly, but there's an awful lot of IT which we use indirectly. So if you think about your own personal life, yes, you might have a tablet computer, you might have a laptop computer, but there's many indirect devices which are engaged in that activity, whether you're doing social media or what have you. So it could be something simple like the printer in your home, the router in your home, but the list goes on and on and on and on of all sorts of things, even down to the charges which we use. And we did some fact-based studies, and we did a series of measurements across a whole variety of pieces of equipment which we use in the home and also which are used in the office. And we found that these pieces of equipment were grossly inefficient. So there's a huge amount of waste which is going on. So what we do as a Green ICT group is we're always looking at, what is the environmental impact of this technology which we use, and are the ways in which we can actually make people much more aware of what is good practice and what is bad practice. And there's a curriculum which we've developed from that. There's education which people can now engage themselves in. There's various courses which they can attend now. And also we have competitions to try and continue to raise awareness and to encourage people to be more sustainable in this technology which they use.
Okay.
So I think for me personally, one of my concerns still about the industry is we do not design for disassembly. It's a lot of the technology which we use on a day-to-day basis is discarded after only several months, superseded because the manufacturers want us to buy some more stuff. There are new features on the software side, which means we have to upgrade because the equipment we've got is not robust enough. And what happens to it? It goes to landfill, it goes off to countries where it's unfortunately broken down in an open environment, and there's all sorts of carcinogenic issues around that. So for me personally, we need to start thinking about how we can design items for disassembly so that, yes, we can enjoy them for 6 months or a year or 2 years, but at some point they can be then broken down in a sustainable way and then reused as part of another product.
I agree, and having spoken to Alex, he did bring up the same point, and he said he knew of one recycling centre in Wales that did the assembly process, but the downside of that was the cost element was rather expensive. I guess it's trying to bring an awareness for the many entrepreneurs out there, someone who wants to tap into that market to try and provide a more competitive service at a lower price.
And it's also, when I think about buildings today, I'm still surprised when you look at, I live near Milton Keynes, and there's a huge amount of development going on in Milton Keynes, huge amount, and it's on pristine land, which is saddening in itself, but they just, the buildings are constructed, there's no cellars. Why do we not build homes with cellars where you have a natural cool environment which you can then utilise in a mixed heating footprint? Why do we not use the loft space? Why do many lofts just rely dormant, only to be filled with some insulation, and then you put your luggage up there, So I think there's the challenge, I just despair sometimes with the approach which builders take. And also when you look at the amount of green space which is there with these new estates, I just think it's insufficient, it's lacking. And we need to create some green lung areas for people to enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's I think sadly a lot of it is down to profit margins, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than long-term thinking.
Again, it's trying to find that person who would come out with a design guide to show more sustainable, efficient ways of designing, bearing in mind the environment as well as the building, and just having that continuous sustainable cycle of a building.
So design for disassembly, and why not design for disassembly with a house?
That's
Why does a house have to be, this is it?
Yeah.
Why can't it be modular? Why can't you say, oh well, it's the autumn, so now I can somehow rotate and somehow reorientate the house?
I mean, there are a few companies that do that, but again, very small and very niche. Those who can afford to branch out to something new. But for the regular builder, they don't know about it. And if they do know about it, there's a cost implication for it. So they tend to shy away from that.
But it would make it a more attractive product. It would make
That's right.
At some point, we have to, as a society, become much more sustainable than we are. We cannot continue the way in which we have been behaving.
Yeah. Especially with
Mother Nature is telling us that.
Yeah, you've got the government's goal for 2050 to reduce the amount of carbon to zero, carbon usage, but we'll see. We'll see how that's achievable.
Yeah. So I think it's very exciting from looking at being an architect. Well, I'm not an architect, but if you're an architect, I think being in the building business, and also with the array of technologies which are becoming more affordable and society's engaging with them more and more, whether it's robotics, whether it's cobots, whether it's augmented intelligence, whether it's augmented reality, virtual reality. There are many new technologies out there, and it is a very exciting time. But I think it does. I think you're right. It requires, I think, builders to be more designers. I think society to be more courageous in embracing what is actually there before us.
Exactly.
Rather than just continually reverting to norm.
Yeah, always going back to the traditional way. Why not go forward to new technologies that are out there?
And that in itself is not only is it good for the environment, it is also it will be good for the person, for the community, and therefore it creates a sort of a wider quality of wealth as well.
Yeah, most definitely. So if our listeners want to keep track of what you're up to, how can they get in touch with you? I think the best find way,
you? Just through the British Computer Society Green IT Specialist Group.
Yep.
But always willing to help or provide guidance. But thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Richard. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Property Regeneration Podcast. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram and Pinterest, and contact us on contact@propertyregeneration.co.uk for more content and to have your questions answered. Until next time, adopt innovations to accommodate the growing population.